And welcome once again to the Ageless Wisdom podcast, where we seek, search, discover, discuss, and share wisdom that was applicable yesterday, still is applicable today, and I bet you all my money that it will be still applicable tomorrow.
What about the next day?
Tomorrow.
You sound like you rehearsed that.
I've been practicing that all
You've been
week.
practicing it in front of the mirror like 10 times.
He really has.
Dang it, now y'all ruined my perfect intro. Anyways, my name is Leo, and with me today is...
Kat. Hey.
What's up, guys? It's Josh.
And we are here again to talk about, relationships.
Oh.
Relationships. Relate to someone in a ship.
I don't think that's what it stands for.
I was trying to be cool, but
No,
I didn't practice that one.
Sorry.
Cool.
Yeah, you need to practice that one a couple more times. Yeah.
Man, oh man. What a crazy spring break we've had.
Yeah, that's
Haven't we?
true.
Wow.
We've had camp, and again, we still need a dedicated episode to bring in someone from camp, and so they can share the camp experience. And then me and my wife, we went to Colorado.
Yes, we did.
We
As
drove.
you can see by his new tourist sweatshirt.
We drove all the way there, 17 hours from Houston, Texas, to
Yes.
Estes Park, where my wife grew up. Not where she was born, but where
Yes.
she grew up.
Where I did grow up. Yes.
And that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. We can talk about that for
Yeah.
yeah,
Spiritual battles, all that stuff.
all that stuff.
That's just a little sneak
But it's
peek.
beautiful over there, and so we had a lot of time, a lot of good fun times hiking and seeing
My
the
first time
snow.
seeing snow.
Yes, real snow.
Real
Not
snow.
Texas snow.
Not Texas ice.
Yeah.
Snow.
The one time I went to Colorado to go visit, it was the one day that they had no snow.
The one day.
Or the one, month.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I mean, it's pretty much 8 to 9 months out of the year you can expect to see snow.
And I went on the one
And
month
you
we
went,
didn't.
and, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I'm sorry, Josh. But all
I
I can
have
say
yet to
is
see snow.
you're missing out. But people over there, they hate it. It's crazy. We want to switch places.
It's not like we hate it. It's just that it's annoying. It gets annoying when you have to shovel it. Like, I think my parents still have a video of me, angrily shoveling snow. And what my mom started doing is she put that song in the background from Cinderella. Oh, it's like, oh, Cinderella, Cinderella. And then it's like,
Oh, okay.
anyway. So,
Oh.
it's yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. Relationships.
But yes, we're talking about relationships. And I want to clarify before we start the discussion and talk about, we dive into the episode, what we're talking about exactly. Because when I say relationships, all you single people start thinking about dating or...
Maybe not just single people, but
Yeah, I did not think
Yeah.
about that. Maybe not.
I think in general, people, doesn't matter.
It
if you're
was
single or
a
not.
joke. Sorry, single people. I didn't mean to offend you. You're awesome.
You have
I'm
to
not
be
even
careful what you say
single.
nowadays.
Yeah, you gotta
I'm offended.
defend. You gotta apologize and
Yeah.
go back and justify what you said. Anyways, we're talking about relationships in general. And we're going to see how we all have relationships. You have a relationship with your dad. You have a relationship with your mom. You have a relationship with your dog. And you may have a romantic relationship with someone one day. I pray that you do, with a wonderful person. And you have a relationship with your Father in heaven, right?
You should.
And we're going to see how each relationship is different. Each relationship has different boundaries and restrictions. However, we will see how every relationship requires the same things.
Mm.
And
Yes.
that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're talking about today. Relationships. And so as we dive in, I want you to think about all the relationships and connections that you have with the people around you and the people you know. And so my first question today is, who wants to go first? Drum roll.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Am I
Okay.
coming up with a question, or am I answering the question?
No, I'm coming up with a question.
Oh, you okay?
What?
Remember, you rehearsed this.
You rehearsed them.
What
I
does
forgot.
relationship mean to you?
What does relationship mean to me? Okay, so I will say that I think in the past, and before I even met you, and when I was younger, all of those things mean the same thing. I would think of relationship as romantic relationships, and I always thought that relationship was about getting a boyfriend.
Tell me something, girl.
Okay, and yeah, you definitely rehearsed that.
Okay.
So now, though, what I think of as relationship is is what we what we just said. It's not just romantic, but it's everything, every way I relate to people in my everyday life. And so when I think of relationships, I also think of effort and work.
That don't sound fun.
Well, but in the best way. Like I also think of like it in a positive way. Like how effort produces something good. Like that's how I think in a very positive way. Positive effort, positive work.
Joshua?
I mean, I would kind of second that. You know, relationships to me is, I guess, you know, a bond between, it can be anyone, and really that the key in relationships is to serve each other, to put somebody else before you. And so I think it's a really cool dynamic of when two people, whether friends or family or boyfriend, girlfriend, but when two people come together and they experience life together, they help each other, serve each other, and just experience and do life together, that they can just live it to the fullest.
And you know what's crazy is that nowadays, you know, you're going to hear me say this a lot through this podcast, and almost every episode, is that a lot of the topics that we're going to talk about, I'm going to say, and this is what the devil's attacking today. You know, it's because it's true. You know, like.
But anything that I think is pure and God created is going to be attacked.
It's going to be attacked,
and we're going to see it.
Yeah. And what do you guys think are, you know, some of the biggest ways that you've seen that, you know, the enemy, the devil, or whatever you want to call him, is attacking relationships?
Okay, well, I got one. I think, which we might want to talk about this a little bit more later, but I think what I've seen, and I know we talk a lot about how we are frustrated with social media, but I think like there's this weird like expectation now about friendships where like people either expect too much from a friendship, or well, actually I think that's usually what people what like the fault of what was I going that? What was I trying to say? I don't think
Jesus.
The answer is Jesus.
Always.
Wait, let me get my thoughts together. Somebody else say something.
Josh?
I forgot the question. She kind of got me all. She got me confused.
Guys, this is already going downhill.
My bad.
We're going to have to restart
I think,
this.
well, I think the one constant in life is that you build something worth having, somebody's going to come and try to take it away. And so...
Wait, but that's true.
Like that's just the
I feel like
constant
I
in
heard
life.
that in a movie or something.
Well, I mean, that's just the thing is, no matter what we do in life, no matter how good it is, people are going to try to ruin it and take it, and it's just how it is, and that's why we have to be ready, like you always say as well, it's a fight. You know, we have to understand that when you have something worth having, people will try to take it. Yeah. You know, it's not like you get something worth having and then that's it, you know, and life is good. No, you're going to have to fight to keep that. And that's just really the way it is.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of different types of attacks in regards to relationships. One of the biggest ones I've seen since I work with children, and this has always been since the beginning of time, it's the relationship between children and parents. Okay?
Yeah, that's a big one.
And it's the attack where I don't really want to go into how I believe that children get this idea. But now more than ever, the child has the idea that they are the parent and that they run the house. I've seen that a lot. And the parent has gotten into this idea where I don't want my child to suffer in any possible way, in any form. I'm not even going to discipline them because that's a form of suffering and pain. And so I'm not even going to discipline them. And, you know, I remember growing up, which I see now, which there's nothing bad to it, but I remember like choosing what school I wanted to go to was not my like I never had a say in that.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds bad when I say, but it's not bad. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, mom, I don't like the school. I'm going to change. My mom was like, this is where you're going. This is
where
are
the
you
bus
gonna
picks
go?
you up. This is where we can drive you in the
Well,
mornings.
I didn't get
Well, you
on a
know what
bus.
I mean.
Just kidding. But no, but not only was it like that for me in school, but it was like that in every other aspect of my life.
Hmm.
Oh, you don't want to do this? Oh yeah, okay. You're not 18 yet, buddy. You go where I go.
That's interesting.
And that's how it was. And I mean, for me it worked, and I know it works for everyone who does it that way. And that's why I'm talking about this, because I've seen it attacked. I've seen that relationships being destroyed. I've seen more and more rebellion against parents. I've seen more and more where children and youth don't care what their parents think, don't care about developing that relationship and caring for that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And this problem can be, whether you grew up in church or not. Again, this is not. I'm not saying that if you raise your kid in the church and they make a mistake that you're a terrible parent. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, that's a whole other thing. Like we were saying, that a relationship with Jesus, that's another relationship that you also got to develop, right? Whether you grew up in church or not. So that's one. Another one I've seen, marriage.
Like
marriage.
as one being attacked, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yes, as one being attacked is marriage. I've seen, nowadays, and
especially since we've been married, I think we notice it a lot more.
Marriage. I've seen the rise of polygamy. I've seen.
Wait, define that really quickly. Not for me, but for our viewers.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, it's like where you can
have
multiple wives or multiple husbands.
Like multiple,
like the sister wives.
Like okay, yeah. like you're not like committed to one person.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
The
whatever it is. It's like they all have a separate house.
Yeah.
That's
you said polygamy. It confused me. I know I've heard that before. I just.
Well, now I'm confused.
No, I think you're right. Because poly is multiple, right?
No, that's what it is.
It's monogamy
one man,
is one.
wives.
Well, okay, but one example I want to give where again, this guy has a huge influence, a huge platform, Will Smith and his relationship with his wife. Mm-hmm. It was this huge thing. It's super confusing and dumb, really, how it happened, because they claimed that they were this open relationship this whole time. And then there was this whole scandal because Will Smith got mad because the girl was somebody else. And then it's like, wait a second, I thought we were open relationship. Anyways, they write this book and they're basically trying to say how, it worked for them. And so that every relationship has to find what works for them. And if that's what you guys love, that's awesome and that's good. And so it's destroying the marriage. Then you got the attack of, a man and a man can be a marriage. A woman and a woman can be a marriage. And that's the type of world that we live in, and the type of society we're building. I mean, that's a society our kids are going to be growing up to in,
Yeah.
So that's what lets me know that that's one of the biggest things that the enemy hates.
Yeah, sorry. Were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, because I was going to say, adding on to that, another thing that made me think of something else that gets attacked a lot too is the relationship between people. And I think we have seen that a lot. I honestly want to pinpoint COVID as like a turning point, but I also know it's happened before that, where you see not only COVID, people were isolated, they're not having a relationship with one another, but we're seeing a lot of divisive movements, movements, protests, divisive things out there that are very, their purpose is to divide people from people and to break people apart and say, no, if you're not against this, then you're against us and we hate you. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, like trying to divide us into different sections, And
that's an interesting topic as well. the topic of division. And I think we'll get into that on what makes a successful relationship. But another one that's being attacked, relationship with God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get God out of the school system. Get God out of the minds of the people. Destroy that relationship between humanity and God. And we were talking about this I think we were talking about this a couple episodes ago, about how Stalin, that was his way of controlling all these people. Destroying the relationship with them and God. Getting God out of the mindset of people. Hitler, when he was doing his thing, one of the things he said is the Jews, they were the ones that introduced consciousness to humanity. Morality.
Oh, conscience?
Conscience. What did I say?
Consciousness.
That's a whole other word. See, again.
We are confused today.
We're confused, tired, and rehearsed, but we didn't rehearse all the way. Well, okay, say the word.
Conscience.
Conscience.
As in
that
morality.
The Jews introduced conscience. That little voice that speaks to you and says, hey, what you're doing is not right. What you're doing is wrong. He blamed, that was one of his biggest, again, hatred against the Jews, that they introduced conscience. And so, because he wanted a world before the Ten Commandments, a world where you could sacrifice your kids if you wanted to, a world where you could kill disabled people because they were, to him, in his eyes, they were a strain and a setback to their country. And so that's the kind of world he wanted. A world, I think I may be mistaken, but I think he even said, like, our war is against the Ten Commandments. And if he didn't say that, with the things that he was saying and doing, that's basically what he's doing, what he said, and what he did in his life. His war was, more against the Ten Commandments than anything else. And so, again, that's a whole history thing, but I'm just trying to point out that the different types of relationships that the enemy is attacking.
Yeah. Well, then the question begs the question: why would you even have a relationship if it's going to be attacked?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Why even have relationships? Could you be successful if you were to isolate yourself in the mountains and live by yourself? Would that be a good way to live? Is that the solution? Is that the answer? Why even bother in getting married to someone that's annoying and will bug you from time to time? And no, I'm not speaking from experience.
About anything specific, right?
No, I'm not talking about it. But why even go through that? Why is that even important? Can we just live by ourselves and be ourselves? And so that is the question. Why even have relationships in the first place? Why even have the desire to have a successful one? And so that's the question.
So I think a lot of the why behind why we should even have relationships, it definitely stems from the biblical. I think at the end of the day, every relationship that we have here on earth is a reflection or a metaphor for the types of relationships that we have with our Father in heaven, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit. And so I think the reason why we should have relationships on a spiritual level is so that we can gain a deeper understanding of how our relationship is supposed to function with the spiritual, with our Holy Father, with our with Jesus Christ, and all of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, like, to add on to that, God created us for a relationship, right? And just from the beginning of time with creation, He created Adam. And even before Eve, he had a relationship with Adam. They walked together, talked together in the garden. And then he even said, it's not good for man to be alone. And he made Eve.
Yeah.
He saw the value in having people around us. And I think that's with relationships, whether friends or family or even business. It's just a fundamental necessity we have that we can't live or thrive on our own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said the business thing too. Like, it also reminds me of like when everything shut down with COVID stuff. I mean, think about everything that crumbled. I mean, not only our relationships with friends and everything, but mental health issues skyrocketed and businesses crumbled and all of those things that society's like built on, it fell apart because we were isolated and because we weren't thriving in community.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. What you guys are saying, like as y'all saying that, you know how God created it, right? And so in the beginning, God creates Adam, and he gives him a wife, and in that verse, God says, "It is not good for man to be alone," and that is the first time the words "not good" appears in the Bible. And so that's very important. So we gotta know what this means. And so this is me speaking, and I'm sure God intended it to mean this as well. That when it says it's not good for man, He's talking about humanity, okay, as well. It's not good for people to be alone.
Yeah.
So you have nature, right? The natural order of things that God set in place, right? All of us came out of a relationship of a man and a woman.
Yeah.
That's how we were born. So you can't deny that. You can't, that's the truth. You have health. It's healthy. Think about torture. One of the biggest ones, and the one of the ones that they use is isolation.
Oh,
They put you in this white box by yourself and leave you there, isolated. And I mean, they go crazy. These people go crazy and lose their minds.
Yeah, I would.
Because they don't have anyone.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And they lose the skills to socialize, and I mean it's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Not only healthy, but it's a good way to avoid sin. Because if you think about it,
Accountability.
yeah, think about with King David. He was he used to hurt the sheep, and he used to kill lions, protect kill bears, and he was in the army. So and then he becomes king, and now he does none of that. He just sends people to do that, and he's alone. He's isolated. He's by himself, and then he looks over at this woman and ends up killing her husband and takes her.
Yeah.
Because he was alone and had nothing to do. And then you have the topic of success, what you were talking about, business.
Yeah.
People back in the day, they used to have a lot of kids because they needed more hands to work the farm.
Yeah. My grandparents are like one of 13 kids. Like,
that was normal back in the day. That's normal. Because you can't do anything productive in this life on your own. Evil you can do by yourself.
That's true.
But doing something good that, it takes more. It takes two people.
Yeah.
To become, in agreement. And
that's a good point.
I mean, I think that's important. Why even have relationships? Because God said it that way. It's a natural order of things. It's healthy. It prevents you from sin, accountability, and it's the only way you can have success is by connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And
there's one thing I was gonna add on that too, because it just made me think of this. But I think like all of our relationships, like both romantic, friendship, business, all of those types of relationships all contribute to like us as a whole and like complete human, you know what I mean? And how not only does it, not only like I said, is it like that metaphor for our relationships with Jesus and God in heaven, but also it's like we can be more of a whole person when we have all of those little pieces. Like we were talking earlier, me and you, about how like there's aspects of our relationship, like I have strengths and I have weaknesses, but usually where my weaknesses are your strengths. And so we contribute to that one another because we're married, but then even in friendships, I have friends that have strengths that are my weaknesses.
I am unorganized. And you keep me organized. You help me in that way. Or we all serve in the children's ministry, and Josh, he's more skillful and knowledgeable on technology, getting the lights and the music and screens ready, and to help me when I'm preaching, present to the kids the message, the gospel. And so that's what we're talking about. You want success, you need a team. You need a group of people around you.
Yeah, community.
And so,
Yeah.
I think we I think we got that good. Y'all good on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
So,
good about that.
okay, now we talked about why we have relationships, but how do we have successful relationships?
Well, that's a big question, because we can talk about like what their purpose is, but how do we even get them? I think, like we were saying, it all goes back to the Bible, and you'll probably find that's a trend of everything we say. It's like it all goes back to the Bible, because it is the source of wisdom. It is the source of healthy things, right? And so I think one aspect of having good relationships is uh love. I mean, the Bible talks so much about love. Like, love is in probably every chapter of the Bible, if we're being honest. I'm not a scholar, so don't quote me on that. But it's everywhere. Like, love, Jesus talks about loving your neighbor and loving your friends and all of this stuff. And so I think having like that basis of like, I'm going to love others, that is how you start a good relationship. And that's how you start any good relationship. And I don't mean like go and love somebody as in like we're not all meant to fall romantically in love with one another, but love like Jesus did, in the sense of he talked about I'm just going to read a verse. So he talked about in John 15:13 that there's no greater the love than to lay down one's life for another, or for a friend. And so that type of love, that sacrificing love, that choosing to lay yourself down for somebody else, like that, I think starts any good solid relationship.
That's good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I think there's a few key foundations of a relationship. I think, I believe that with any kind of relationship there is, whether friendships, family, there is a base level of foundation that everyone has to have. Just like the Bible talks about, you don't build it on sand or sinking sand, you build it on a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Every foundation has to be solid. And I think where you can find the generic foundation of any kind of relationship is going to be the fruits of the Spirit.
Mm.
It is, all of those characteristics of Jesus, of who God is. And the fruits of the Spirit basically is just what you put in is going to come out, right? The fruits of what you're putting in. The seeds that you're sowing are going to come out. And then another thing is just understanding that there are times where relationships may be like, oh, why do I want to fight for this relationship or that? And it's understanding that anything worth having is going to be a fight. It's going to be a cost. And we have to understand that, we need a foundation of love and of peace and of patience to strive for the relationship that God intended for us.
Yeah.
And even we have to have a relationship with God before we can focus on a relationship with anyone else.
That is so true.
Yeah, and talk about. I remember we were talking about this the other day, and you were talking about honor and respect, and the difference of those things.
Yeah, and I think it can be a controversial thing because a lot of people, whether in friendships or maybe kids and parents, there's two things, right? The Bible tells us to love everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean we have to like everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that might sound like, what the heck? But that's just the way it is. Liking somebody is, you have to like them. They have to be a likable person.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have love, they don't have kindness, they don't have self-control, you might be like, well, I just don't like being around them. That's fine. But you gotta love them, right? You gotta treat them with the decency and how Jesus would. Jesus loved everyone. The same with authority or parents. There are authority and parents you might not respect, but the Bible says you have to honor them. You might not respect somebody in authority, but you have to honor them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Respect and being likable is something that is earned. Respect is earned at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's not, a lot of people think that they are entitled to it. Nobody deserves or automatically is entitled to respect. respect is something that people earn through time and through the responsible,
Man, that's good.
good things.
Yeah.
And so, but you might not respect somebody, you might not like somebody, but you still have to honor them and you still have to love them.
Yeah.
And that's where it is. And then if you flip it on yourself, right? Are you being the kind of person that people respect? Are you being the kind of person that people like? Because just as other people have to earn it for our, approval, we have to do it to others. So are we presenting ourselves in a respectful, likable way?
Mm.
And so it's not
That's
just
interesting,
finding
yeah.
the one, but becoming the one.
Ooh. Yeah, I remember
Good
you were
point.
telling me this the other day, and I freaked out. I was like, "What are you saying?" But as I thought about it, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's kids who their parents abuse them.
Yeah.
And they don't respect them, and they don't like them. And I've heard a lot of these stories, and these kids grow up, and yet they don't talk bad about their parents.
Yeah.
They start honor them in that way. I was like, wow. And it's true. Even parents have to earn that respect.
Yeah.
But in that thing, it's not that. For example, that's where God comes in again. That's why He made it a point in the 10 Commandments. He says, honor your father and mother. He makes it a point.
Yeah.
Why? Because a parent can't just demand honor. My wife cannot just, let's say me and my wife, we didn't believe in God, right? And you are like, well, you have to respect me and honor me. And I'm like, no, I don't. Who says? Why? Why do I have to honor and respect you? I don't care. There has to be an external authority.
Yeah.
That says you ought to do this.
Yeah.
That's why we have the government. Hey, this is the law. Not saying that everything that is within the law is right, but you see what I'm saying. We need that external source to tell us, because if it were just me and my wife, well, what makes her right? What makes me right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the fruits of the Spirit that we were talking about, where, the more you focus on your relationship with God, the better the fruits or the what's a better way of saying fruits? That's very Christianese.
The
Product?
Yeah.
Okay, like the product of what you do, the better it will be, right? So, I mean, it says the product of walking with God and being in close relationship with God is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control, right? And so if you are trying to have a relationship, obviously you need all those things: kindness, goodness, faith, like to be liked and to be respected and all those things. And so if you don't focus first on growing and rooting yourself in Christ, where that product comes from, where that fruit comes from, then you're not going to be likable, you're not going to be respected, you are going to fall short, and it's not going to be a good time for you, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so I hate to do this, but to end, I want to read this verse, and we'll end it.
Mm-hmm.
Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 to 23. This is talking about the fruits of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. I was reading this the other day, and it blew my mind, because it kind of like gave me a revelation. Because if the most powerful being, this is what Jesus claims, that He is in us. The Spirit is with you, right?
Yeah.
The most powerful being in the universe is in you, and yet you don't get shoot lasers out of your eyes. You can't fly. You can't, like Wolverine, heal yourself.
Yeah.
That's not what comes out. What comes out is love, patience, kindness, and self-control. Why would I need that from the most powerful unit?
Wow, yeah.
I can control myself. Oh, really? Try stop scrolling.
Yeah.
Turn off the TV. Stop getting whatever you're addicted to. Just shut it off. You can't. And so, if you want a successful relationship, what you were saying, connect with the source of the things that will make your relationship successful.
Yeah.
And that source is God. Yeah. Connect with Him. Have a relationship with Him. And then He will fill you with His Spirit. Mm-hmm. And all of the fruits, the outcome, will make you likable. Yeah. Will make you respectable.
Yeah.
Right? And so with that being said, I want you to remember that Jesus taught us why we should have relationships, and he taught us the cost of those relationships. If you want something good, it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to work for it. You're gonna have to fight for it. You're gonna have to sacrifice and lay down your life and your emotions and your desires to serve somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, with that being said, thank you guys for joining us. Follow, like, subscribe, comment, whatever it is you want us to talk about. We'll talk about it, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, bye y'all.
Boom.